All right, Premier League season kicks off this weekend, and as you can see, Chris Sutton is with me. Do you get excited for the start of the Premier League season these days?
I'm a really excitable person, so I can't wait for the start of the Premier League. Norwich City in the Premier League have come up, and I'm expecting great things from them. But obviously, the title race and the race for the top four, very interesting. A lot of big clubs. Somebody's bound to miss out. Very exciting.
Yeah, let's start with the title race then. The big theme will be, can Liverpool go toe-to-toe with Manchester City? Can they do that?
Can they do it? I think they can. I think, we saw the Community Shield and City were brilliant first half. Liverpool really came back into it second half. Not a lot between them, but I don't think Liverpool can get 97 points again. I think City are just relentless, and I think that they will edge it again. But I think though these two teams we've mentioned, Liverpool, Man City, are in a cut above the rest.
Is there a sense about Liverpool that if you're not moving forward, you're moving backwards, and the lack of summer signings perhaps?
I think it's a sense about every team. If you're not moving forward, you're certainly moving sideways. I think that it's a positive that Oxlade-Chamberlain's back. I think it's a big season for Firmino, who maybe dipped a little bit last season. Jurgen Klopp has talked about fatigue. Mane and Salah, phenomenal players, and they're going to be key for Liverpool again. They of course improved. Van Dijk improved them. Beyond all recognition. At the back, I still think they'll have that steeliness, but it's just can they get that level of consistency again, which was phenomenal. They didn't deserve to lose the league. How they must have felt after the final, game against Wolves. Going in and I think they'd won, was it 11 on the spin, and City had won 14, something like that at the end of last season, and they hadn't won it. And I don't think that clearly didn't affect the confidence. I thought that they would deserve winners of the Champions League. Big deal. Liverpool fans want the Premier League. They've won the Champions League. But this season, I think they really want the Premier League.
What was it about Roberto Firmino that contributed to that dip last season?
I think he, injury, didn't help. I just think that it's. Look, I mean, we're analysing and trying to pick. Small holes in a phenomenal team. So to beat Manchester City, they need to get everything perfect, and I think that in most areas they're perfect. But Jurgen Klopp will probably want a little bit more this season from his centre forward.
Let's talk about Manchester United. Harry Maguire has obviously completed his move to Manchester United. You were once the most expensive transfer in English football, £5 million. Big money at the time.
Do you think I've aged well?
I think you've aged magnificently, brilliantly into the punditry role as well.
I'm not so sure you're good on sincerity.
I'm the most sincere person ever. Back in that era, we talk about Harry Maguire, we talk about the fact that the price tag is going to weigh him down. Is that true? Is that a real thing? Do you ever think about that?
But he's not a striker, is he? So I think it's easier for a defender, and I do think it's easier for a defender. Naturally, strikers are judged on goal tally, but the scrutiny will be on him. But if we're sitting here honestly saying, will he improve the Manchester United back line? Well, of course he will. I think it's a big, I do think it's a big deal. I think it's a statement signing. England's best centre back, moving to Manchester United, and will that lead to them attracting more players before the end of the window? Bottom line is, will he improve them? Yes, he will. Will he improve them enough to compete with Liverpool, Manchester City? I'm not so sure he will.
I'm sure it can go one of two ways as well. I mean, we talk about the transfer fee as a negative thing all the time, as if that's
the market. It's the going rate. So people naturally will compare him to Van Dijk because he's gone for more money. But you can't query the player and his ability because of the fee. It's what you have to pay for a top player, and he is a top player. So I understand why they forked out that amount of money. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer needed to make an impact signing, and he certainly made one.
Did you walk around being the most expensive player in England with the chest out a little bit higher than that, or did you feel the pressure a little bit more?
I'd gone from Norwich City, where there was no expectation, to Blackburn Rovers, where I know they're a Championship club then, but back in the day, you were probably still in your nappies. There was an expectation for Blackburn to push for the title. So that was the pressure. You go for money, you're expected to score goals. Fortunately enough for myself, we won the title.
Did you go around to anybody saying I was totally worth it after that season?
I think I went around the whole of Blackburn and told people I'm really worth it. But, when I moved to Chelsea later on in my career for £10 million, it was the opposite.
What was that like?
Is that what you were going to get to?
It wasn't actually. I was actually just thinking when he said...
We'll leave that then.
When he said it's worth it there, I thought we were doing a L'Oreal commercial, to be quite honest with you.
You speak for yourself. Lovely hair.
Thank you very much. You too. Let's talk about Chelsea and
too sincere.
And that price tag, because it is.
That wasn't in your list.
No, it wasn't actually.
You weren't going to talk about that.
No, you brought it up. It's good to ask follow-up questions.
I went for a lot of money. I didn't score any goals, so I left.
But was the money an issue?
The money was an issue for Chelsea because they expected a better return. That clearly didn't happen, so I left. So of course it was an issue. If you go for big money, and people talk about Tammy Abraham, possibly being the number 9 this season, but there wasn't he doesn't have the pressure of a transfer fee in that respect. I think there's the will for him to do well because he's been developed at the club. But there has been an issue with Chelsea number 9s over the years, and I think I started it off. If you look at Torres, big money, Morata, big money, Shevchenko.
Why do you think that is?
Well, people are looking for a goal return, this, that, and the other. It's just one of those things which happens. And I'm not into superstition, this, that, and the other. Abraham does have the number 9 shirt, but no, because if you play badly, you play badly. This, that, and the other. In many respects, it doesn't matter what number you wear, does it?
It doesn't really, and we've seen that with the number 9, especially over the last couple of years. We've spoken about Roberto Firmino and how he's kind of been the embodiment of the new role of number 9. Different club, of course. Actually, if you were starting off today, how would you have to adapt your game if you were still the same Chris Sutton that came through at that time?
I don't actually know what you're getting at there. How would I have to adapt my game in terms of playing as a number 9?
Yes.
I think that back in the day, not that long ago, it was more about a striking partnership. I think now, if you look at Premier League history and you think of, look at Chelsea, I look at Didier Drogba, he could do everything as a number 9, and in terms of holding the ball up, powerful in the air, had the pace to run in behind. I think Firmino's one. He's a different type of player in that he will really drop in, into a 10 role at times, and then other players will get beyond him. But if you're looking for the absolutely perfect number 9 and to play that role, well, you have to have all the attributes. And I'll say it before you say it, I never had great pace.
And was that? Did you adapt?
I tried, but I tried.
So would the lack of pace hurt you now a little bit more than it did back then?
No, because I had other attributes. I did have some good attributes, but lack of pace is genetic. I think in terms of link up this, that, and the other, you have to play to your strengths. So if I had players in and around me, I had pretty decent awareness. So as long as I had players in and around me, then I'd be okay.
Because it looked like a couple of years ago that you look at someone like Sergio Aguero, and he might be in a bit of trouble in terms of where his career was going. They got in Gabriel Jesus. It looked like he was going to lock down that role. And all of a sudden, that word adaptation comes up again. Sergio Aguero locks down that jersey once again.
I think what was levelled at him, I think that there was a bit of, a work rate issue, levelled at him. And I have to say, credit to him, has always been a phenomenal goal scorer. When Jesus went in, he raised his game and said, "You're not taking my place." And, it's a good scrap for the jersey, that, because Jesus is, really talented. But, if you're going to pick one, when it comes down to the crunch, the big game, then there's only one you pick at the moment.
They say that football goes in cycles and that tactics from years ago come back up again. Like
Who says that?
I made this up just there right now. The three at the back, for example, they said that that was the formation that Arsenal played before Wenger came in, and then a couple of years ago came back in. Just as one example, just while you say that, is there going to be a return of a 4-4-2 or just two strikers up front? Will we see another SAS? And it could be yourselves, it could be Suarez and Sturridge, as we saw a couple of years ago.
I knew there wouldn't be a whole complement in there. Look, I mean, the truth is that when you're saying 4-4-2, I mean, essentially when we were out of possession, it was 4-4-1-1, and Alan would stay centre forward, and I'd do all the running, and quite rightly so, but. What's the difference? It's 10 yards. So there's a place for twin strikers. So in terms of circles, football going in circles, I do take your points. I mean, some clubs, Burnley still play with two up, albeit they're not always great to watch.
They're the most old school of the teams, perhaps.
Would you say that to Sean Dyche?
I would not.
There you go then.
To be fair, he's been he's far from old school.
You're scared of Sean Dyche.
I'm absolutely terrified of Sean Dyche. Who isn't scared of Sean Dyche, really?
No, I did the Champions League final with him out in Spain. So I played for Blackburn, Blackburn don't get on, but no, we're friends now.
You're a Sean Dyche enforcer.
We're texting buddies.
Right. Okay. To be fair, calling him old school is obviously doing a disservice to Sean Dyche. When you look at him and the way he thinks about football, are we actually unfair on him? To be fair,
and what has he done? He's taken a Burnley team up, and we see how hard it is for teams to come out of the Championship and survive. And they had the season before last, where they totally overachieved. Really, he doesn't spend big money, and he works with the tools which he's got. So in that respect, he's not a fantasist. He's a realist, and season in, season out, keeping Burnley in the Premier League, I think, is a big deal. But I mean, they're not great to watch.
Let's talk about the top four race. So, are you predicting Manchester City to win the title? And if so, who's going to follow them in there?
You should normally say, "What is your prediction?" Because you've spoiled it now.
Is there a spoiler alert here?
You've spoiled it because you've already said Manchester City to win the title.
Would you concur with that?
Yeah, I would. Yeah. So who's second?
Why do you think Manchester City are going to win the title?
Because I think they get more points than Liverpool.
It's good shout, actually. That's very incisive right there.
No, I don't. I just think 97 points for Liverpool, one loss. Can they be as consistent again? I think City, the strength and depth they've got, albeit Liverpool have Oxlade-Chamberlain back. I just think City midfield going forward, they have two players in every position. They are phenomenal. So I think it will be City, Liverpool, Spurs, and before you laugh, Arsenal.
I'm an Arsenal fan, so thank you very much. That's given me plenty of hope. But are you joking?
I am banking on Unai Emery to get a centre-half in before the end of the window. Because if you have to rely on Mustafi...
If you have to rely on Mustafi, is there a chance that they finish outside the top six?
No. That's disrespectful.
So the likes of Everton, the likes of Leicester City, the spending that Everton have done this summer isn't going to be a ceiling-shattering moment for them.
Well, Everton's I take your point. Everton is. I mean, they're spending over the last 4 or 5 years. I'm not saying they're right up there, but I bet they're in the top 4. And they're backing the manager, so Everton fans will be expecting better than they got last season. I mean, I think for a long period of last season they, really underperformed. Now they've spent the money. Talked about the pressure, which that can bring. So yeah, I mean there'll be a lot of scrutiny on Everton. Brendan Rodgers going in at Leicester City. I think they've lost Harry Maguire, which is a big loss. But I think, Brendan's shown in the past he's a very good coach, and, they have some really good young players. So, yeah, they're another close one to watch. Wolves, they sort themselves out against the teams at the bottom, which was their Achilles heel last season. I think their record against the top 6 was pretty phenomenal, really. So, there's a lot of teams who are going to be good to watch and who aspire to do as well as they did last season.
Well, Chris, enjoy the season. What are you most looking forward to, actually? What are you most excited about when it comes to the next couple of weeks?
The next couple of weeks, I'm really excited about the first game, Manchester United, Chelsea, because there's going to be so much hysteria, isn't there? Don't you think?
Oh, massively. If you look at the two teams, the two managers on the sideline as well.